Hi, welcome to our webinar series here, Dolby Atmos Music, Content Creation, and what's new in Dolby Atmos Music. Thanks so much for joining us as we explore what's been going on and some of the exciting things that are happening in our world. So the first of a number of webinars we'll cover, these sessions in towards the end, but lots of exciting things coming up. If you have questions, please direct them to the question box into the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll seek to answer some of them at the end and get to as many as possible. So, but thank you for all being here. So some of the things that we're going to be looking at in this webinar. Very exciting growth over the course of the last year since we were together, and much more to come. So where are we in the marketplace today? Well, Dolby Atmos, Dolby Atmos Music, when we did this a year ago, there were about 35 studios in the world that were kind of set up for Dolby Atmos Music purposes. One of the side benefits of everybody being at home is they're all setting up home studios and doing so in fantastic fashion. But also we've seen growth in the marketplace in large studios that's commercially available also. So we've been seeing about a month-on-month 15% growth in the marketplace. So as it stands today, 138 studios worldwide are dedicated to creating Dolby Atmos content for music. Many more for post-production, obviously, and we're seeing that growth expand quite dramatically. So just following this morning's session, we discovered another 6 more that are waiting to be approved and things like that. So this really is exponential growth in the marketplace, and speaks to a great belief that you as creators and labels and partners all have. So. Thank you for believing in this. So those are located across the world. We list Dolby Atmos studios for music on our website. There's a QR code in the bottom corner there. But you'll see, across all territories, there's Dolby Atmos studios being utilized. Whether you're in Nashville or Nashua, it's possible to find a studio not too far away from you, and as far flung as Nigeria, and just this week Lagos as well. So exciting to see that in marketplace, and many more that are in development. So there's a lot of studio projects ongoing at the moment, and that's to fill the need of the artists and the genres that are exploring Dolby Atmos. So this is just a sampling of some of the artists that are released in Dolby Atmos today, and many more releasing on a week-by-week basis. I always forget that music releases on a Friday. It just shows up in the timeline. It's great. So very exciting project from a diverse range of genres, artists. And great representation across all of the labels and partners as well. And that was also on show at the Grammys this year. So while there was no immersive Grammy category this year because the board couldn't get together to consistently listen, it's pretty exciting that a number of the winners and nominees were in fact already in Dolby Atmos. So whether that's Fantastic Negrito, winner of Contemporary Blues Album, that's available in Dolby Atmos. The Album of the Year, Folklore, also available in Dolby Atmos. So we've been seeing this kind of growth and belief of the labels and the partners to put out frontline content as well as catalog content, and that has been accelerating. So again, very excited about the expansion of the marketplace in terms of those creating and distributing Dolby Atmos. So last year we talked a lot about the Universal Music Group Warner Music Group, and then during the webinar series, the announcement of Empire. Well, as you see from this slide, that's expanded dramatically, and also streaming services expanding out as well. So Amazon Music HD and Tidal we talked about last year. Now in market in regions, we also have Ungama and various other things coming down the pipeline here. So how do we help you to kind of get that expansion going, to enable the market to create Dolby Atmos content wherever they are? Well, providing some resources to engage with the community, and really putting the extended power of what we've learned from the last couple of years into the hands of the resellers, the system integrators, the room designers, and really allowing the knowledge that we've garnered to be out in public. So the best practices for music studios is a PDF document that you're free to download, and we'll cover it a little bit more in the coming minutes here. But also available is the music studio onboarding form, and we're going to cover a little bit about what that looks like as well. So with any development and process that goes on, there's always a learning and an adapting to trends, and that's resulted in this regard with some updated specifications. So some of the workflow enhancements that have occurred in the last year have been on the workstation side. So the ability to now export an ADM B-Wave, which is the audio definition model broadcast wave format, which has all of the Dolby Atmos metadata and the audio data encapsulated in a single delivery file, directly from a workstation, so directly from Pro Tools, Nuendo, Steinberg put it into version 11, or even Blackmagic Resolve, has enabled the market to now take the stereo master file that's going to be delivered and actually deliver the Atmos track conform to the length of the stereo release. So that updated workflow has gone into the specification document. We've also modified the loudness behavior, because what we saw when Tidal expanded into the home, for example, is that some of the tracks that were perhaps mixed louder and were representing louder on the Echo Studio were getting penalized on the home market playback. So this loudness target now of -18 is kind of the top of the range that you should be hitting, and it's going to allow for expanded high dynamic range content and reproduction across all of the various places where Dolby Atmos music is going to play back. And we'll cover some of those expansions coming up here in the next few slides as well. The high dynamic range content, such as classical music, jazz music, is often where we see the greatest suffering. And what we've seen is deliveries of -23, -24, even lower, operating just fine because of the way that Dolby Atmos enables that in the playback environment. What I would recommend is taking a look at that headphone limiter that's built into the renderer, and trying not to exceed 3 dB of kickdown adjustment in that. And you should get a fairly transparent mix, and something that's going to translate across a wide variety of playback mechanisms consistently. So that's kind of a recommendation to you to help you along here. So what happens when you submit your studio for music onboarding? Well, this is the process that we go through, that we're working with the market, with the DSPs, with the labels, to enable the studios to come on board with. So you submit your room information, and we will help you to create what's known as the DART. Will provide consultation on which models of a particular speaker brand that you prefer are going to make the most sense, and then help you to work with your integrator to build out your room in Dolby Atmos. And then to understand what the workflows and how the system can all integrate together is. And then the final output from it is that Dolby Atmos Music Studio list on Dolby.com. We also have a private list. So if you're a studio that doesn't want to be listed on a Dolby website, that's totally fine. There are some partners that have been creating Dolby Atmos music for a number of years that don't want to be listed in that way. They get their business a different way. So the private list that we maintain is what we send out to record labels, to streaming partners, to artists if they ask, as to where they might be able to go. So if you ask if a particular engineer is enabled, then that's what we would send you. So it's a really great resource for the industry to enable them to work with the folks that they would work with in stereo that have also enabled for Dolby Atmos. And that list grows day by day, week by week. So really exciting to see that growth. So again, the best practice for music studios is this document that we're putting out into the marketplace. This is a beautiful room in Nashville, Tennessee, Axis Sound, run by Michael Mansur and Webster Tilson. Webster, I believe, is on the webinar today, so hello to you. I got the chance to visit this room back in November, and it was a beautiful experience. It's got a standing desk, which I really appreciated, being 6'2". So the best practices will help you to kind of design out your room, and it's what we guide people through when we're talking about the onboarding process as well. And it's really to ensure that consistency of translation occurs in the marketplace, and to guide you through some of the things that are commonplace questions, and to get us to a place where actually the music industry is set up to succeed, and get that translation across the playback mechanisms. So in addition to those, we also have a number of workflow guidelines that we've put together and will be available on professional.dolby.com, which is a great resource for all of your Atmos creation needs. But some of the key processes here: the assembling an album. This time last year, the music industry was very much focused on track-based delivery to the services, getting the latest single or the hit from that catalog record delivered into Dolby Atmos. And that's changed over the course of the last year. So we're now seeing many more album releases. So this document is to help you using Avid Pro Tools to ingest the ADMs. So it's also possible in Steinberg Nuendo and Resolve also, but the guidelines here are for Pro Tools, and then enable the kind of timing out the crossfade capabilities, the ability to actually generate an album. And we'll discuss much more of this in some later sessions. One of the things that we see in the music world particularly is use of the Dolby Atmos Music Panner. So for working in Logic Pro, Ableton, or even dynamic panning and sequence movement in Pro Tools and in Nuendo, we see that this music panner that is freely available from Dolby.com also. It has some issues when exporting to the ADM from Pro Tools. So this guideline is to help you write that automation into the Pro Tools timeline, so that will export correctly, and allow you to utilize that end-to-end, top-to-tail, stereo-conformed delivery that the labels and the streaming services are going to be requesting from you. So guidelines to help you get along. And again, all of this will be published on the Dolby Atmos knowledge base for music, which will be from professional.dolby.com. So where are we? Where have we been? Where are we going? And what can we look forward to in the future? Well, one of the most exciting things that I've been able to experience this year with Dolby Atmos is actually playback in the car. Something that we heard an awful lot of from the industry and from the engineers was, well, where is somebody going to actually experience this? When is it going in the car? Well, at South by Southwest this last March, Lucid Motors announced that their Air vehicle will be coming to market this year with Dolby Atmos enabled as part of their Surreal sound system. And it's using our music recording studios as reference for the designs. So they spent some time with the team at Capitol tuning and making that reference design follow the stringent requirements of the music labels, so that that's going to be played back. Earlier than that, Klipsch and Panasonic announced their partnership with each other for putting Dolby Atmos into the auto. That was at CES this past January. Very exciting. Enables the playback of Dolby Atmos across a wide range of automotive manufacturers and head-end units. And it's been really appreciated in the marketplace that this has been possible. So I've had the great benefit of being able to take the vehicle to a number of engineers and even at Capitol this past March, spent some time with Jacob Collier and his engineer Ben Bloomberg, mixing in Dolby Atmos using Logic Pro into the system at Capitol Studio C, and then at the end of the day, walk their master file out to the car for them to have that studio to consumer experience, something that had never before happened. It's always great to be part of those firsts, and I think that they had a great experience on that. Some of the other folks that have seen and heard this vehicle, again, Ryan Olyates, who mixed and delivered the beautiful album Tom Petty, Wildflowers, and all the rest. I got to take the car to him, and this is what he had to say about it. And I think, somebody who worked so closely with a seminal artist like Tom Petty, I think that's a great testament. Also there you'll see from Schiller, who have heard the Sennheiser implementation in Germany of Dolby Atmos in the car also. And they're going to be talking about that experience, as well as working with Dolby Atmos in Merging Technologies Pyramix platform, which is also capable of generating the metadata very similar to Logic and Ableton and Pro Tools and Nuendo to create Dolby Atmos content. And if you'd like to learn more about that, coming up here on May 31st, excuse me, Schiller will actually be presenting a webinar in association with Dolby and Merging Technologies. That goes out at 5 p.m. UK time, which I believe is 9 a.m. Pacific. So excited for that. And the other place people listen to Dolby Atmos and experience music in general is in the home. We talked last June about the expansion of Tidal from headphones with the Galaxy and the Android implementation of their app on mobile devices out into the home environment. That was using the AVRs and the set-top boxes, the Android TV implementation, the Apple TV implementation to send Dolby Atmos to those consumer speaker environments. So whether that's a soundbar or a home theater. Just recently, LG, who've long time been an adopter of Dolby technologies, including the high dynamic range imaging, Dolby Vision, implemented Tidal on their television sets. And this is frankly the way that I experience Dolby Atmos music at home now, is through LG C10 running Tidal and playing into a Sonos Arc soundbar with the associated sub. And it's a great experience. So very excited to hear that. And again, some great albums available on Tidal that we can talk about in some detail later. And sharing the expansion, Samsung kind of drive a lot of technology development, and they announced in January also the Galaxy Buds Pro. So these are earbuds enabled with Dolby technology and to experience Dolby Atmos in their earbuds with Dolby head tracking. So one of the things we haven't really talked about previously with music is this concept of head tracking, and it can be it's confusing. What it means in basic terms is the music's going to stay even if your head turns. So I'm looking here at the web camera. That would I would assume be center speaker in a music experience with Dolby Atmos. As I turn my head, the music's not going to move. The music's going to stay, and my experience of it's going to reproduce in that way. So it's very much like sitting in a studio and closing your eyes and spinning around on the chair. That's head tracked audio and head tracked music versus our existing stereo experience of that music being head locked. So in stereo music, you turn your head, the two channels move with you. That's the difference that we're experiencing here. So want to just touch briefly on some other experiences that have been critical over the course of the last year and really exciting as we go forward, particularly with regards to what the music labels might be doing in these formats as well. So we've had a really good relationship and pretty deep engagement with Q-Code, who are generating immersive podcasts in Dolby Atmos. And again, we've got the experience of playing Dolby Atmos in the car. Left-right game is particularly fun with that because it starts with a massive car crash, but it doesn't distract you. It enhances the experience and puts you deep into the story. And so that's going to be a really exciting avenue of development as we go forward here as well. So there's a lot of what's new. Where can you go for some resources? So the resources we have available, I mentioned the professional.dolby.com site a number of times. All of these resources are available through that, and that's the QR code that will take you right there. So whether you're looking to set up and get started with Logic or Ableton just on headphones, on your laptop, on your Mac laptop, there's a resource for that. How do you configure your renderer? How do you start working with objects and beds? There's an awful lot of information available here, and you'll also see reference to the Dolby Learning site. That Dolby Learning site is a resource that we've put together with the Dolby Institute to enable a self-paced learning activity for getting up and running with Dolby Atmos. So a lot of great questions, a lot of great resources, and steps you through module by module about how to get up and running with Dolby Atmos. It's the same basis that Avid used to build out their certification program for Dolby Atmos mixers, which is available through your resellers or through Avid directly. And that gives you an Avid certified Dolby Atmos operator certification. But in terms of the larger engagement with the industry, as we mentioned, we are 130 studios around the world, 140 studios. Slide's a little out of date right now, but we can get you up and running with the information that you need to decide on what's right in your room. That's the music studio onboarding process. labels, if you're interested in learning more about how you can get your artists working in Dolby Atmos, how to distribute, and what the value proposition is, then we can speak to you about that and help you to understand how to work with your artists and distributors on these things. And then creatives as well. So if you're an artist or a mixer or producer, there'll be a lot of great resources that we can share with you, point you to the best practices, and really give you the insight and overview that you need to be successful in creating your first, and hopefully first of many Dolby Atmos mixes for release down the pipeline here. So before we dive into some Q&A, which is always my favorite part of these webinars, I just wanted to give you an outline as to where Dolby Atmos music webinars are going. So next week, I'll be getting to spend some time with mixer producer Dave Way, who set up his studio here in Beverly Hills to be Dolby Atmos enabled during COVID, and has been producing some great work with The Bad Think and Radio Aloha and various other projects that are on the go. Also going to talk about working in some more of the producer-friendly workstations. So Logic, Ableton. How can you generate your mixes in those platforms that can then be explored and extrapolated into the larger studios, or even final delivery using those platforms? It's entirely possible to get up and running just on headphones, and then to expand out into the studios. In week 3, we're going to talk a little bit more about the studio design. We'll dive into those best practices, some of the reasons and thinking behind what we've discovered along the way, and really how to get started in Dolby Atmos where you're at. The producer pack is something that we'll see the resellers also kind of rolling out here in pretty short order, which is really a method of simplifying the Dolby Atmos setup. It can actually sit into a 3U rack and get you started with 64 channels of audio passing from Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton or Nuendo into the Dolby Atmos renderer, and then back in for capabilities of outputting to 9.1.4 plus some bass management in studio environments. And then in the final week of this webinar series, I'm going to let the masters do the talking. So mastering for immersive music is one of those topics that comes up an awful lot. As you'll have noted, the assembling an album is the starting point of that. There's so much more that goes into that mastering process. So asking 2 masters of the craft to actually tell us what they think about Dolby Atmos music, how they approach Dolby Atmos mastering, and some of those Grammy-nominated projects, and in fact Grammy-winning projects this year, were done by Michael and Emily. So Emily with Everyday Life from Coldplay, and Michael with the Grammy-winning blues album from Fantastic Negrito. Very excited for that, and it's always better when the industry tells the industry about why they are needed versus me telling the industry. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor here to some Q&A. Always, as I say, always the most fun part of the activity, and so let me have it. Okay, so got to, is Dolby Atmos on Amazon Music going to expand beyond the Echo Studio device, or will Tidal remain the only service offering Dolby Atmos music for home theater and headphones? So we don't it's not our place to talk about future expansion plans for our partners, but we see great growth in the industry, and working across other streaming platforms. You mentioned some of the regional ones. There's many more on the cards for this year. It becomes a business decision for any label, any streaming partner, as to how they deliver Dolby Atmos in their pipelines. So sometimes they'll deliver an album just to one streaming platform for a period of time and then onto another. We stay out of those discussions. It's not our place. My place is to enable the music community. So as you'll see, there's a QR code on the page right now. That's my lane to stay in, is making sure people have the tools to create Dolby Atmos music content, and hopefully then ensure the translation across the market follows from that. So again, we're working across a bunch of different platforms, but we're also able to distribute Dolby Atmos via hardware. So some of the first early releases of Dolby Atmos were in fact on Blu-ray. So the music market is one that has long adopted lossless playback of Dolby Atmos music on Blu-ray, from things like the Pure Audio system, as well as more traditional Blu-ray, Blu-ray releases. And the cool thing is that same Atmos mix can be delivered into Blu-ray. It can be delivered into theaters, and so your decisions that you make in the mix room are going to be able to play back across all of those territories. And again, that's where a mastering engineer is going to be of great benefit. So they're there to ensure that the final delivery of your art into the marketplace is consistent with your expectations and creativity. Extent of integration with Tidal and number of songs. I don't know how many songs there are. It used to be that I could count them and tell you exactly who mixed them and where. Frankly, the success of Dolby Atmos in the marketplace has meant that I have no idea. So very excited about that. That fact that I've in fact lost track. Yeah, very excited to see that growth. Is 9.1 speaker setup the new 714? 714 is pretty consistent, and certainly the baseline that we recommend across all Atmos content creation. The thing I like about 914 is that it fills in that gap that often exists between the left and right speaker and the left and right side speakers. And what it enables the mixer to do is more confidently place instruments, place vocals, place the instruments that they choose inside of the sound field, because there's a speaker there. If there wasn't a speaker there, they may not make the decision to place something outside of that realm. Now, the Atmos renderer is going to take that and play the content and render it to the best of its capabilities with the speakers that are provided. But having that there really makes people lean into it. And also when it comes to headphone-based playback, it's recreating a sound field. So breaking outside of those channel limitations of what the channel-based 714 configuration or 5.1 might have had, allows them to more consistently create the sound field that is going to translate over those headphones as well. Can an educational studio be onboarded and certified? So we don't do certification anymore for any studio, and it's something that for music studios I also I've never been a believer in myself. Very personal choice. That's okay. In terms of education institutions, yes, absolutely, they can be. There's a good number of installations. So Shenandoah University, for example, are listed on our Dolby website. The students are free to make Dolby Atmos music in that beautiful control room that they've put together. And similarly across a wide variety of other institutions that are coming together and being built up. So if the Education Institute meets the requirements of the music studios and they are available to create Dolby Atmos content, then yes, absolutely, they can be available. When will the production suite for Mac M1 be released? I'm really hoping soon, because getting stock of Mac Minis is really tough. But no, we're working on it. The teams that do all of our development are actively monitoring and developing for those platforms. So watch this space. Hopefully soon it will be fully supported, and we can all go about our day of buying new Macs. How is the Sonos implementation of Atmos? I love it. I've been really happy with my Sonos Arc. It's a much lighter bar than my previous recommendation of the Sennheiser Ambio, so it's less likely to fall on my daughter, which is always a winner. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic platform. They've done a great job, and obviously, it being driven by musicians inside of the company, it's great for music reproduction. So very excited that they, as well as many others, are developing Dolby Atmos solutions. A lot of requests on this one for production suite on Windows. It's something we see an awful lot of, and I definitely hear the need an awful lot more. Product team is also aware of it, and while I can make no promises, know that we do hear the results, and hear the requests come in. So please keep them coming, and we'll endeavor to prioritize and to make those things successful. Are there tools to do some upmix from stereo to Atmos? Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that's existed in the marketplace for as long as Atmos has been a thing is upmixers. So taking stereo 5.1 content and putting it into the generally into the 712 bed configuration. Those do exist in the marketplace, from Halo to Pentio. DTS Neural Upmix is a great one that I love what it does to music when it's associated to picture. What we find, however, is that with music for music's sake, as I refer to this, it may not be the right solution. Now, there's going to be elements that might work for upmixing, but I generally stay away and recommend against using it for the whole track, because there's so much to explore in Dolby Atmos. And it was one of the things that we found very early on. In fact, before I joined the music team, was the sort of first track that is was mixed in Dolby Atmos was Elton John's Rocket Man. And that's something that has existed in 5.1 for a good number of years. Greg Penny was the producer on those 5.1 records, and came into Dolby on a recommendation of his friend Avid to play with this new thing, Atmos. And so he brought the 5.1 track in, and the 5.1 stems and source that was available for that. and went, oh, okay, well, we can just do this. And then he went, oh, no. And he went back to the 16-track Dolby A encoded masters for those files, because he wanted to explore the sound field. He wanted to be able to do more with it, and to really break out of what the 5.1 capabilities were. So really thinking about what the experience of listening to music in a space is going to be important, and that doesn't really, in my opinion, grab the attention when it's upmixed from stereo or even 5.1, in the way that constructing something from the Atmos or the individual multi-tracks or stems does allow you to do. Are there different levels of Atmos software? So what the two packages that kind of go together here, there's the Dolby Atmos Production Suite, which is $300, runs on a Mac, and allows you to feed audio from your workstation into the renderer, and then monitor from there, either via speakers or the headphones. The next version up is the Mastering Suite, and the Mastering Suite enables you to set up that workstation as an external machine. The reason I like this for music studios and producers is that it gets out of your way more with Dolby Atmos creation. So if you want to do a guitar overdub, you want to do a vocal pickup, you want to use outboard gear, it allows you to carry on working with your existing I/O inside of your workstation, feed out, feed back in, without ever worrying about what Dolby Atmos is doing. And then feeding those out into the renderer is just another set of output paths. So as we've been developing this with music studios, it's become more and more apparent that actually the renderer getting out of the way is successful. So yes, there are entry-level solutions. So whether you're a Nuendo user and it's already built in, so no renderer needed, or you're in Pro Tools or Logic or Ableton, FL Studio, and have the $300 to get the Dolby Atmos renderer production suite, there's a solution to kind of help you get in. Question here about the 3RU producer suite. Yes, I'll cover that more in week 3, but I can also share with you some documentation. If you want to reach out to musicstudios@dolby.com, I'd be happy to share that with you, and I'll just send it directly to you. What's the recommended approximate Dolby Atmos enabled mixing studio size? And then you confused me, Camille, with meters. Being a Brit, you'd think I was closer to that, but I'm really not. In the best practices documentation, you'll find the minimum requirements. Extrapolating from there, the further away you can push the speaker with whilst maintaining the SPL levels and the coverage and the frequency response, that's where you get to the optimum layout. It's going to be different for every speaker and every control room, so I don't really like to go into the generalization there. For example, Capitol Studio C is one of those reference rooms. It's 21 feet long, 18 and a half feet wide, and is utilizing a 916 speaker setup. That's not going to be right for every situation, so we definitely like to answer the questions based on your room. And I realize I'm a little tardy on getting back to you, so I apologize for that. What is my personal favorite music Atmos mix so far? Wow, that's a great question. The different things for different different feelings. So I've been really enjoying listening to that Tom Petty album recently. It's a gorgeous rendition. Um, Rocket Man is still the first thing that I play in any music studio that I go into. So I think I've heard that about 1,000,003 times. It holds up and it never gets boring. The other one that I really like is Welcome to the Jungle, Guns N' Roses. And I like it at about 2 minutes 30 onwards, where the instrumental kicks in. And just being able to hear the playing that's actually in those tracks is fantastic, and so great to hear that and experience it. But there are many more that I could go into. My new favorite is actually the new Thomas Rhett album, and it's also a fan of my wife as well. So check that out on Tidal. All right. Is there can you master from the production suite? Yes, absolutely. If you generate an ADM in the production suite, it is absolutely a valid master. I do recommend listening to Dolby Atmos over speakers before you release something. So if that's taking the encoded file that comes out of the renderer, so there's an MP4 export, and plugging it into a TV or AVR, and listening to that over a sound system, or going into a studio and listening over the speakers, that would definitely be my recommendation. But yes, you can create start to finish using the production suite, if that's what you'd like to do. Are there any devices that play the ADM files other than the renderer? So the ADM file is actually based off of an open standard. The ITU came up, the ITU and SMPTE came up with, and its purpose is to be non-tied to a particular platform. Now, the truth of that when it comes to Dolby Atmos is that there's metadata in there that needs to be rendered. So you can actually take that ADM and import it back into a workstation, and then utilize something like Nuendo, which has the built-in renderer, so you can play that out, or you can take the ADM and pull it into Pro Tools, into Resolve, various other platforms there. What headphones do you recommend for Atmos music listening? So genuinely, it's your preference. So when I'm working in the renderer, I utilize the Sennheiser HD650s, and I'm a terrible audio engineer, so I just plug it straight into the headphone output on my MacBook. When I'm listening out in the world, everything from AirPods to Bose Quiet Comforts to it's what I have where I'm at. And when we're recommending how somebody should listen to Atmos for approvals, it's always with the headphones that you're familiar with, because we don't want you to have to learn something new to do that evaluation. Yeah, lots of religion around headphones, but the HD650s are what I use in the studio. Is there an auto tool available to calibrate Dolby Atmos setup? So in the studios, not really, not one that I would kind of stand behind and say, yes, absolutely, that's going to get you where you need to be. There are certainly tools that do allow for those things. So the Trinov mic with the I'm blanking on the model number, but their Pro unit, MC Pro, that's what it's called, the MC Pro. will allow you to kind of get to that that level. But it's obviously a potentially more expensive unit than some people would like. We actually utilized the Trinov Altitude 32 at an exhibit in Amsterdam that we set up with the Rolling Stones this last year. Yes, there was a public exhibit in this last year, and remote tuned via the microphone. We had someone on the ground to make some personal adjustments as well, but the majority was done with an automated calibration. So yes, it's entirely possible, but I would absolutely recommend giving Dolby a call to come out and help you get your room tuned appropriately. You will not be disappointed. How many AVRs support 914 within a reasonable price? That's expanding. So as with anything, you kind of start with the devices that 714 was kind of the default playback. We've seen more and more of those expand out. In terms of devices to play in the studio, there's a very promising one that's coming up here that unfortunately the timeline keeps slipping. But we've been seeing an awful lot of JBL synthesis SDP 55s going in that will decode Dolby Atmos from an HDMI device into Dante capability. So you can actually feed that into your B chain, your monitor matrix, and actually output that to your speakers. So you'll be able to get that closer to that A/B comparison of Dolby Atmos in your studio. So it's not a cheap unit, but it's certainly doable. Okay, looking here. So if we already have the production suite, do we need to buy the mastering suite? It really depends on your workflow. So again, if you're kind of creating Dolby Atmos with the production suite today, and it's serving all of your needs, the only reason to expand out from that is if you start running into processing challenges, or it's not fitting into your existing workflows. So that first moment that you need to do an overdub and you need to change from Dolby Audio Bridge to enable it, it's time to start thinking about upgrading to the mastering suite so that you can just be more free and available with that. Can we master music in Resolve 17? I believe so. It's not a platform that I'm particularly familiar with myself. So similar with the integration of Fairlight for Dolby Atmos. If that platform is working for you, and the audio tools in Fairlight are fantastic, and they many years ago, before Nuendo and Avid integrated, the Fairlight had their 3D panner with the hand sensing thing. It was phenomenal. But it's not something I've personally used, so I'm going to steer clear of making those recommendations right now. The marketplace is continuing to expand. I'm really excited about some of the things that are going on, and to answer a couple of the questions here. Are there any plans for a way to distribute or buy lossless Dolby Atmos mixes? Yes, absolutely. They're in market today. So the encode to Dolby True HD, or downloading as part of a Blu-ray disc image, that will support high-end playback through the home theater systems and various other things. So there's that expanding ecosystem that is inevitably going to bleed across into other music streaming services and various other things as well. So excited about the possibilities there. Okay, where else are we headed here? The let's take a look. Are there any user tools that allow a mix-in progress to be reviewed on the Amazon Echo Studio or other devices prior to delivery? So I'd reach out to Amazon with that question. They definitely have some solutions for you to work with. In terms of listening on other devices, the MP4 export from the renderer will allow you to get to where you need to be. And again, plugging that into a home entertainment system will allow you to browse the USB stick. exFAT is your friend, as I found, for a streaming stick disk storage format. But that's certainly where you should be going. Is there an upgrade path from production suite to the mastering suite? No, at this time there's not. So it's a new purchase. So if you're starting to run into the limitations of the production suite, missing room EQ, for example, or needing to run an external system, or some of those things, then yeah, reach out to one of the resellers that you can find on again, professional.dolby.com, and they will be able to help you to get set up with the mastering suite. What plugins would you recommend for 7.1.4 effects, compressors, reverb, etc.? This is one of those that's been pretty cool in the marketplace with the post-production depth and breadth. So some great plugins from FabFilter and various others that are in market. Some beautiful reverbs for creating true spaces, artificial spaces. So things like the Exponential series CD plugins that are now part of Isotope. They're great plugins to explore. Some of the more exciting developments and experimental developments are from folks in New Zealand with Cargo Cult. So they're Slapper and Spanner and the blanking on the others. Great plugins to kind of whet your creative appetite. And also from Sound Particles, there's the Sound Particles and then Energy Panner, which are really cool experimental tools to explore the sound field. Dolby Atmos vinyl. Yeah, come back to me on that one. Technically, you can put a binaural on the vinyl. I'm not sure it would translate in the way that you would potentially like, but certainly something to explore. Okay, so thank you for joining us here on this webinar. We're unfortunately out of time. Much more due to your wonderful questions than my wonderful presentation. So thank you for joining. Thank you for being so participatory. And I hope to see you again next week as we explore some of the workflows around Logic and Ableton, and hear from Dave Way on how he's been exploring Dolby Atmos music in his studio at the Way Station. Thank you so much. Have a great day.